That's right, episode 33. That's 311s for you. It's Potty Potty here with Chewy, the Canadian, live and direct. How are you doing this evening, Chewy?
Doing okay this evening. Just put the kids to bed. Eliash is sick once again, and it's been quite a while. But yeah, the sickness ran through our house the past couple of weeks. I was out for a few days, and now the kids. So, but other than that, just chilling, recording some rinkside and drinking some vodka soda.
Vodka soda, what type of
The
vodka?
uh, the cottage springs, like
Cottage
the
Springs.
flavored vodka soda.
Oh,
I don't know if I
vodka.
was allowed to like show that on camera, but oh well.
Well, I'm showing my Truly here.
Oh,
It's
there you go.
hard seltzer. Um,
Okay, yeah, pretty much the same thing, I think.
Cottage Springs. Do they have cottage cheese up in Canada?
They have cottage cheese. Yeah, we have cottage cheese in
Okay,
Canada.
okay. Just
Yeah,
making sure. Yeah, I don't know. That's the first thing I thought of when I heard Cottage Springs. It's like big curds of cheese in your little glass. But
I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think more like the cottage, like like vacation cottage, not the
Hmm,
cheese. But
yeah. Speaking of your cottage here, your own, Chewy's Corner. Any new additions to the wall this week?
no additions this week. But just I don't know, nothing actually on that end.
Uh, well, I have a new addition to the Potty's penthouse. We've got the Lego Star Wars X-wing. Check this out.
Oh, that's pretty. Oh,
Oh,
there you go. That's pretty
so
sweet.
sick! And it's got little R2D2, hanging ten. So pretty sweet. Uh, I don't know how many. I should figure out how many pieces it was. Probably like 500. And I think it took me. I try not to go through it too quickly, but like the thing that I enjoy like most about Legos is when it becomes like very methodical and you just execute across these like here's the prompt, find the pieces, assemble, follow the instructions. I like going. It's like pure execution. So
There
um,
you go. You
yeah.
you got to do the Death Star, or no, the that big Millennium Falcon one. I think that's something like uh I think that's something like the biggest Lego, or the biggest Star Wars Lego one.
Oh yeah. I think I watched a video of somebody, not the full video, mind you, it was like sped up, but it was like how long it took. He did the fastest like assembly time for the Millennium
Okay.
Falcon. And his first attempt, he completed it, set the world record, and everything was good. And then he found out that there was a piece that had been missing, and so he like
Oh,
turned him. He like said, "Hey, actually, that attempt doesn't count." And then he did the whole thing right over again, and
oh, what an
set
honest
set the
guy.
world record. Yeah.
Yeah, like this one, it's like 8,000 pieces. I don't know if this is like the one. I don't know if they've did it, but it's like $600 on Amazon. So
Oh yeah.
it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. There's also like the Hogwarts Castle, which
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
up there in piece count. But that's like a my thought is like I'm gonna run through the Star Wars line, their product line, and have to find a new product line. And I'm thinking maybe Harry Potter. I could build you know
Yeah, I've seen some cool Harry Potter ones. The
Hogwarts
there's a
Express.
TikTok. Yeah, there's a TikTok account that I follow that they also like sell like lights for Legos. So they like build it so that like you can add like lights to your like Lego sets. So I don't know, it's
Mm,
pretty cool. They did a couple for like Harry Potter themed ones where they like light up the Lego set, which I thought that was pretty neat.
yeah, that's a pretty sweet augmentation of like brick building and whatnot. Um, well, sweet. Did you catch The Last of Us, the latest episode?
I did. Did you watch it? I assume then.
Yeah, yeah, I saw this one live this time.
What what was your thoughts on this past one?
Um, so like I didn't like recall any of that from the game, but my girlfriend Jen, she said, "Oh, that's from the DLC." So my thought is that maybe it was a DLC that you had to buy, and it went back into the origin story. Do you know the history of this?
I didn't. I never finished the game. I know stuff online was saying that they kind of strayed away from the game on this episode,
Hmm.
but I can't like confirm or deny
Yeah.
that. I just know there was a lot. I don't know. I always like read the articles after and like people's thoughts, and apparently not a lot of people were like too thrilled with this past episode. They thought it was like boring and just like not interesting.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. It was kind of like obvious what was going to happen, like the whole episode. But like, I get it for the story, like the backstory and like showing all like the old stuff that like Ellie never got to play with and see. So I don't
Hmm.
know. It was one of those episodes where I was like, meh. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I my thought is like, so I remembered that she was the actress, or maybe it's just actor now. She was the actor that did in Game of Thrones. Do you remember where she was
Yeah,
like?
yeah, yeah. Her
So,
her and Pedro Pascal were both in Game of Thrones.
oh yeah, that's right. Oh, very interesting.
Yeah,
My thought is like she's just like a very young actress, and basically like with time she'll be able to provide a more like commanding performance. But
yeah.
I think she like did really well with like the material that was available. But maybe I don't know. Don't you? Doesn't it come down to the people that are in the scene to like make it exciting, even if it's not the best like written material?
I don't know. I think she's doing well with the show. Like I wouldn't say it's necessarily her acting. I just thought like just the whole plot line from that episode was
Yeah,
like not really thrilling.
yeah.
It's kind of like walking through a mall and you're like, oh well, I wonder when this infected is gonna come and bite the both of them,
Mm.
and then it did. I don't know. It was just like such an obvious. Um, I don't even know like episode. Just what was gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I don't know. I guess like they've done so well with the other character, like the new character development. Like what was it? Sam and his brother. I forget the name, but like those
yeah.
two, and then the two original like the gay couple from the second or third episode. Like they did so well with those characters, but the I don't even remember what her name was, but the girl that Ellie was with that whole episode. Like I don't know. I didn't care much for her, but
The
just my opinion.
who Tess?
Uh, no, not
Oh, in that
oh
the
the
episode we're
love it
talking
her,
about.
her
Oh,
like
I feel
her
you.
like crush in this
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
Like I don't like they didn't really like they did I don't know I don't think they introduced or like built her that girl's character like well enough to like
I think
care that she got
if they spent a little more time with like maybe doing a flashback to like the Fireflies, like they're not like a super compelling group, right? Are they like a terror cell? Are they really trying to like help? They haven't really like gone into the background on the Fireflies, so the fact that
yeah that's true
she was a Firefly, all I have is the context from the game.
right yeah and if you didn't play the game it's just like oh they don't like Fedra and
Right.
they might be doing good or they might not yeah
Yeah.
all right
Uh
hopefully
well,
next week's episode's more interesting.
yeah, absolutely. So why don't we move on over to the transactions that occurred this week?
Yeah. So a couple of trades this week. First off, involving Copenhagen and San Diego. This was just a one-for-one trade. Andrew Green going to Copenhagen for Leighton Lee. Think it was just some adjustments both the teams needed to do to shore up, Copenhagen's center slash playmaking end of it and San Diego's goal scoring. So not much to say here. I think it was a pretty fair trade, and both players seem to be producing well on their new teams. So good luck, Leighton, and welcome, Andrew Green.
Hmm.
And then another trade this week. So This was an affiliation trade, which will lead into the next transactions. But affiliate Ryan Jones goes to Malmo or Rome affiliate team, and then Las Vegas and Tokyo get Raymond Scott. Did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks weird on the way the transaction is posted. Yep. And then, as we know, in the next transaction, Rome had to cut Scott Fairway due to inactivity, and Rome ends up calling up Ryan Jones. So, congrats to Ryan Jones. He's been in the minors for quite some time. I think he's one of the highest rated minors forwards that hasn't played a pro game. So, congrats to him. And I think he's put up a couple points in his first few games in Rome.
Not too bad.
Yep. And then finally, we got the minors signings for the week. We welcome back a couple of familiar faces. We got Jesse Newton, who is the son of Eric Newton, who used to be in our league. So he goes to Wellington as a right D. The Sydney Whales sign new forward Thomas Leclerc, and Malmo signs Jordan Tribble. And right below that, Eric Newton gets signed by the Iceland Ice. So welcome back to the league, Eric, and we hope you stick around.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds like quite the number of events. So let's turn our focus over to the standings.
All right, so we'll start over on the left side of the standings. We'll just run through these really quick because we have a new segment that we're going to try this week that we'll talk more about the teams. But Las Vegas and Alaska still tied for first. Both only have 2 losses on the season. Albuquerque, San Diego, both in playoff spots right now. Albuquerque's having a pretty good season. I think this is the best goal difference they've had. And San Diego looking like the first expansion team since season 3 to make the playoffs. It's a little early, but they are in a playoff spot, so congrats to San Diego. And then the bottom 4 teams, I mean, Tennessee, Redwater, and North Bay are really still in it, all with 18 points. And then Honolulu only 2 points behind with a game at hand, 16 points. So, I mean, this looks like a really tough conference this season. There's no, like, eliminated team or team that, may not make it. Like any team can make a run if Albuquerque and San Diego go on a little losing streak here. And on the Mr. Hockey side, we got Miami at the top with 31 points, Copenhagen up next with 29, and then Jacksonville still solid in third place. I know they've had some struggles this season, but they're still keeping in. So I think they're just focused on making playoffs, and then they'll go from there. And an interesting one here, Turku and Florence both fighting for the last playoff spot. And right now, Florence is technically in the playoffs with the better goal differential. So they are another expansion team since season 3 that could be making the playoffs for the first time. So, two newer teams hopefully making their runs. But Turku is, a team not to be counted out. So they got to keep it up. Next up, we got Norfolk and Rome with 18 and 17 points. Once again, they're still in the race. Again, they both struggled, but Norfolk has won some pretty important games against teams like Copenhagen, against Turku, and they could make a run. And then, unfortunately, Boston is in last place in the league with only 10 points. This is a big shocker, I think, for both of us and a lot of other people with the free agency they had. Their in-game rating is quite high. I think they're rated higher than like Florence and Norfolk, but they just can't seem to get it done on the ice. Could be a strat issue, could be line matchups, but we hope Boston can start figuring it out and putting some wins in the win column. What are your thoughts on the standings so far this season?
I think it's interesting looking. You mentioned that, Honolulu's only 2 points out of the current 3-way tie with 18. So Tennessee, Redwater, and North Bay. And, like you mentioned, like those are only, 7 points away from San Diego. So it's a pretty close race over there. So it's like good to, kind of take a moment to look at the teams that are in contention over in the Rocket. And With Mr. Hockey, it's a really challenging conference. It's interesting that, like, you know, there's a big divide in differential going into the negatives with negative 24 at Norfolk, negative 13 at Rome, negative 47 at Boston, and then the rest of the teams are all positive. Um, but it's uh, I don't know. Let's maybe take a look at the divisions and get a clearer perspective.
Eliash? What's going on? Where's mommy?
Sorry, I'll let you take it from here. My son just came out of his bed and walked downstairs, so I'll be right back.
All right.
Eliash, let's go find mama. Okay?
All right. Well, it's cute. Hope everything finds mama soon. So the divisional breakdown, let's take our focus through coming up with, we're going to actually start on the Central Division. So as you can see, Albuquerque is in first and about, it's almost like half of the points, but I think it's a little less because 18 times 2 is 36. But is Tennessee, and then we've got Redwater and North Bay. So you want to keep in mind that they are also in contention for a playoff spot if they can be in the top four for the entire conference, which pulls in the Pacific Division. So you've got, of course, coming in the first place is Las Vegas and Alaska. But, San Diego, that one is an example where it's in the fourth place contention, currently in a playoff spot. So the 25 isn't too far away from 18, nor is it for 16. So that's kind of the breakdown over there. In the Atlantic, Miami in first, but closely behind is Jacksonville. And then there's Norfolk and Boston at the bottom, but, who knows? Over in the European division, we have coming at the bottom with 17 points is Rome. We'll be profiling this team in a segment coming up real quick. Also the other team is Redwater, which was part of the Central Division. So, Florence coming in with 23, also tied with Turku. It's a really close race. So, those two teams are currently in contention for the fourth kind of spot after Jacksonville if Miami and Copenhagen maintain. But that's our perspective on the divisions. We're going to move on over quickly to the minors, and I'll take it from here. Warsaw seizing the lead with a 24 points. Tokyo also has 24 points, but they have a goal differential of 3 less than Warsaw's. Coming in a second is Sydney with 22 points. Not too far behind is Iceland with 18 points. And then we have Berlin with 15, Malmo with 13, Wellington with 11, and Beijing with 8. So I would say the middle kind of distribution of this set of data does have the potential to be changed. So imagine that the first 24 teams maintain their records and continue to go on out. There's 2 more spots in contention, and I would say that the difference between 18, 15, and 13 could be very well just bad luck on one week and good luck on one week that coincide, and these can really bubble up and change. So that's kind of where we stand with the minors. We're going to take a peek on over to our penalty, kill, and power play. Want to take notice of the, let's call out the number 1 power play team right now is Miami, and the number 1 penalty kill team is Albuquerque. When we look at an average ranking, which, ranks these 2 columns, we have Copenhagen at first place, who have a PP of 3 and a PK of 2. Then Albuquerque, who has a PP of 8 and a penalty kill of 1. They come in at number 2. It actually looks like they're tied for number 2 with Miami, who has a kind of the inverse of that, where we have the number 1 power play, but the number 8 penalty kill. Chewy, any thoughts on this? Like how these compare? Should we show some focus to some teams at the bottom just to give more visibility out here?
Yeah, I don't know. Looks good. Sorry, I just hopped in.
Oh,
I
oh, is
mean, it's cool.
everything
Yeah.
okay?
So, yeah. I didn't realize my wife was like not inside the house, so my son like was crying and came all the way down the
Oh,
stairs. So, but yeah, Tennessee, number 2 ranked in the PP, but 16th on the penalty kill. So that's interesting to see that drop their average rank all the way down to 11. Um, I think if they can bolster their penalty kill, I think that'll help them a lot in the standings as well. Rome has one of the worst penalties, but their PK is not too bad, a little less than average. Turku as well. Their PK is at 9, which drops them a little bit in the rankings. Boston has a pretty good PK this season, and Alaska 4 and 3. So yeah, I mean, there's some distribution. It looks like just because you have a good penalty kill, you may not have a great power play, and vice versa. So you are seeing, a good mix of teams at the top and the bottom.
nice. That's good to hear. And we'll revisit this. And if you got any feedback on what you want to hear about this specific chart, let us know. We're introducing a new one as well. This is actually face-offs. These are face-offs taken, face-off wins. You divide the wins by the takens, and you get a face-off percentage. So coming in at number 1 with a 56.4% face-off win percentage is Redwater. They're followed by Florence with a 54%. Then we've got Honolulu with 53.9. Let's just do the top 6. We've got Miami with 53 and Jacksonville with 52.5. So it's interesting to see that, winning face-offs, how that, deals with like a team's standings and whatnot. It seems to, certainly doesn't hurt to win your face-offs, right?
Yeah, and I think in the past games like NHL 21 and 22, sorry, we have the game on as well. Congrats to Miami that just won.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, NHL 21 and 22, I think faceoffs were definitely a lot more intertwined with how the team did. Like if you didn't win faceoffs, you most definitely weren't doing too hot in your games because of the faceoff goals, because of not having puck possession. But as you can see in this game, like Alaska, one of the worst faceoff ratings, but they're still first in the league. And then you have Redwater with one of the best faceoff ratings, and they're outside of the playoffs looking in. Same with Honolulu and Rome, for example. So it's interesting to see this season. 56.4% face-off is pretty nuts. Like that's a pretty good face-off rating for a team. And then Florence, I know they have quite a number of high-end centers, including Trev Lopez, JJ McChuckles, who else? Bo Diddle and Michael. They have a ton of center depth. So not surprised there. North Bay, like teams like North Bay, Norfolk, you kind of want to see them maybe boost their face-off ratings for their centers. I think a strategy for a lot of the teams is to just have 4 centers at 99 face-offs pretty much, and then run them on center. Being in the like even for my player example, I was at 89/90 on center. And I put my player at center, and she was like at a 37 or 40% win rate, like that, which is super low. So I took Rose off center because, even at 90 faceoffs, you can't be losing that many, or else, you're losing puck possession. So, yeah, it's interesting because Alaska I know has a ton of 99 faceoff centers, but they're super low. So I think maybe some other attributes are going into this, and yeah.
What do you think if I were to look up like who the most winningest face-off would be, how many would be the minimum face-offs they'd need to take? 100?
Sorry, what?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll look that up. I'll kind of like see the average. Well, we can go to the next segment really
yeah.
quick, or we could talk about what the segment that we're going to try out this week. I believe that's next. The 2 teams, or are we
Yeah,
going to league leaders?
We can go into league leaders real quick. Let's just get a little spotlight on the goals leaders, assist leaders, and points leader, and we'll maybe potentially rotate this, to different stats each week. But Krieg in the front with goals of 19, and tied for second is Chess and Voodoo with 16, so they're 3 out. And we've got Winkler with 23 assists, Leathers with 20, and Scarborough with 19. And going into points, we've got Winkler with 30, Leathers with 27, and Falco with 27. Do you know who Hank Falco is? Do you know how he popped up on this list?
No, I'm not. No, I don't.
Okay. Well,
I don't.
Hank, come onto the show, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Pleasure to have you. And before we get to our special segment, I'm just going to shout out to our rookie leaders. That is. Okay. It's not loading.
So while that, yeah, it looks like 200 at this point in the season. Having 200 faceoffs, if you're on the first or second line, makes sense. And then if you're on like third or fourth line, you're probably at around like 100 to 125 faceoffs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out to our goal leader, Stig Magnus, and followed in second with Boston Dobbs and Daniel Akers that both have 3. We've got on the assist, Jerry Jackson with 8. Dobbs, again, second place with 6. And Decky Pedersen with 5. And then the points leaders, we've got Jerry Jackson with 9, tied with Boston Dobbs with 9, and we got Stig Magnus with 8. So definitely a lot of names we saw last week. So keep up the top line performance. That's really great to see from our rookies.
Yeah, and big shout out to Jerry Jackson as a defender, leading or tied, I guess, for first in points with a forward. Hopefully he is on the verge of going inactive, so hopefully he can get back into progressing so he doesn't lose his player, because he's having himself a good season. So yeah, get your progressions in, Jerry Jackson.
All righty, you heard it from here first. All right, so let's turn our focus to our special segment. I'm actually going to just I'll just show it. So, let me just preface this by saying when Rinkside received feedback, we took it to heart, and we wanted to profile all the teams equally, and to clarify that we don't have a certain hometown bias, even though we are our number one hometown fans. But so in this segment, we're going to be profiling 2 teams for the rest of the season until we get through all of the teams. And I'm going to let Chewy kind of start it off with what we're looking at and what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah, so if you've looked at the rosters file, this looks pretty familiar. This is kind of like your team's breakdown of players and information on the team. So this week we're highlighting 2 teams. First one going to be Rome. The second one Redwater. But we'll talk about Rome for a little bit. As we saw in the standings, not the greatest season, and Triple H's Hunter Hearst Hemsley has made it clear that this season he's focused on building for the future. Obviously made some trades, brought in some nice young players in Ryan Jones, Vanya Kovalchuk, Zelda McCarthy this season. And, big shout out to Week 7 Rome. Triple H actually won Coach of the Week for Team of the Week, and his player was the first line right D. So, his player and his coaching abilities had a great week. With all the struggles they've had and some of the inactive players, they still put up, I think, 3-1 week. And one of their forwards, Mr. Mintz, also made the team of the week. Unfortunately, if he misses progressions this week, he will be moved off the roster into the, left the league file until he can come back. So it's unfortunate to see some inactivity. We've heard trade rumblings with this team. Triple H is always active in the market, so it's possible there may be a trade within the next couple weeks, especially with trade deadline coming up and expansion. A cool couple other bits of info. They have their whole team signed to contracts minus 3 players going into next season. So Benji Idaho, Braden Leach will both need contracts, and Mr. Mintz, I'm assuming, will be replaced by one of their affiliates who are under contract. So it's good to see how set up they are for the future, and having a good mix of like original players like Brent Solberg has been here since the beginning. Terrence Jones has been here since the beginning, as well as a bunch of young guys as the players I've mentioned before. And you may not have it up, but I'll mark off a couple of interesting affiliates that they have as well. Big name being Jim Bob. He joined the league late last season. He's been very active. And there was another player, I believe, Nils Godlander, friends with Triple H from another league. He's taken on the GM role for Rome. And I know he's taken a big step into helping build Rome. So not only do they have the players on the roster, but they have a good setup of affiliates down in Malmo waiting to join the big club. What's your thoughts on Rome this season? Any interesting things looking at their roster?
I was looking through the stats and I found an interesting. So if you looked at, aside from Bays, the goalie who's a 91, the second highest overall is with Terrence Jones and Brett Solberg, who both are 89 overalls. And what I saw was a really interesting correlation is Brett Solberg, who's a center, has 60 hits this season. And Terrence Jones, as a defender, has 74. 74 leading the team in the most number of hits, followed second by Solberg. So I just thought, wow, that's like pretty impressive, like a physical force. So I think if somebody dedicates this season and sets like the context that we're here to build into the future, not necessarily perform like outstandingly in contention with other teams, this season. I think it shows like a long-term vision, which is good if you're willing to make sacrifices. I think other teams would always want to be competitive in every season, but sometimes like the cards don't work out. And, if you got players that are potentially getting dropped, that sucks. That's, things that you try to avoid, but you don't have ownership, can't like log into their account and do it for them.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right.
sweet. So that's Rome this week, and shout out to Triple H as well. He has a daughter, I believe, who's like a month old now, or just over a month old. So huge shout out, congrats.
Congrats.
Yeah, we'll take it over to Redwater, who's had a tough season, but just because of the standings not showing too great, that doesn't mean that that there's not good news. As you guys mentioned a few weeks ago, Otis Boudreau or Jess has recently become one of the co-owners of Redwater. By the sounds of it, there may be some General Cornwall and Jack Hammer stepping down just to player roles after this season. So Jess, I believe, will be taking on full ownership next season while he learns the ropes again. He was the owner of Glasgow Blackwatch a couple seasons ago before Rome relocated. But on that note, Redwater, the team that you saw with the best face-off rating in the league, as you can see, they have quite a number of high-end centers. Ezra Swift, brothers with Marco Swift and Kevin Say. They've all been with Redwater for quite a while now, and been in the league since almost the beginning. Coco Raccoon, one of the best rated goalies in the league, 98 overall, 6'5", their GM, also a player rep for the league. So he definitely looks out for the players' best interests in the league whenever there's decisions being made, and wants to make sure that it's fair for everyone. So big shout out to Coco there. They have this season 5 expiring contracts. I believe their cap situation is a little high, so they may be losing some players, but the expansion draft should help them in a way where they can expose some players to get taken. And pretty active squad. Sponge Scrub, I believe, is their coach. He's having himself a good season, and he joined the league a couple seasons ago, and he dove right in, I guess, and really helped the Redwater team, get to where they are.
Yeah. And, from the stats side, we've got Sponge Scrub, interesting here. So this is episode 33, 311s. He's got 11 goals and 11 assists for 22 points. He's the team leader in points, followed closely by General Cornwall, who's got 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points. And then we've got Kevin Say, 9 goals, 7 assists for 16 points. And Kevin Say is on the DC Dragons. He's our running back, and he's the best in the league. Douglas Brown
Nice.
can think otherwise, but we've got the
Nice.
best one.
And yeah, and going over their affiliates really quick, they've built a very good affiliate system. Ronnie Shanahan, he's been in the league for a couple seasons now. He's built himself a really good sniper down there, and I can expect to call up the next season or so. Damian Chambers as well. Both those forwards you can see being pros next season. Otis Boudreau Jr., who obviously is the new owner. We could expect him to maybe stay in the minors for another season or just make the jump next season if they need this to fill the roster spots. And big name Jesse Pinkman joined the league, I believe, end of last season, right at the end, and he's really taken a hold and dove right in. He's one of our best stats guys in the league. He's now posting screenshots for the stats team, and he's done some graphics as well. So it's awesome to see these new people in the league really like helping out and enjoying it. So yeah, huge shout out to Jesse and thank you for helping out the league.
Yeah, shout out there. Any contribution you can make is one that will be well received and appreciated. And such is our next segment, the plays of the week. So I am going to kick us off with number 5. We've got Cole King, number 38. Oh, look at that. Hat-trick. Put them up for number 4.
You can commentate these because I can't see them.
Okay, we've got Squibs coming down the ice, and he does a magnificent breakaway goal. And now for number 3, we've got Lassinger, who's currently in the goal. Watch this. Boom! Miraculous save. Full body, looked like Superman hovering over the ice. Number 2, coming at us, we've got Amelia Rose. There she is. Look at this. Oh! A deflection goal from the stick held vertically. That was ridiculous. And finally, we've got Jake Anderson with that beautiful goal. Check it out in slow-mo. All right. Well, Chewy, those were our episode plays of our. Those were the plays of our week. And before we switch it over to the interview with Squibs, any closing thoughts before we close out the episode?
Nope. Let's take it to Squibs.
All right. And welcome back to episode 33 of Rinkside. I'm here with Supreme and Squibs to Chuck. Squibs, welcome back to Rinkside. It's really a pleasure to have you back on. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Happy to be home for at least a day. I got back in last night. We had a indoor track championship that I helped administrated this past weekend, and I'll be heading out for Pittsburgh for our basketball championship tomorrow morning. So a quick day at home and for getting busy again. So nice quick day to catch up on things and to join Rinkside.
Wow, that's really interesting. It also sounds like you give a lot back to your community. I'm kind of curious, were you involved in these like sports administration activities before goals, or has goals kind of contributed to your ability to like lead in an administrative fashion?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I graduated my undergrad in 21. I knew then that with my undergraduate degree of what it was political science. I didn't want to go into politics anymore, but I wanted to graduate in 4 years. And so, I evaluated then, kind of what I wanted to do, and sports has always been a big part of my life. And so I had a, kind of an idea of going to get my master's degree in sports management. And Applied for it in April of 21. Goals started in May of 21. So like shortly after I believe 21. May of 21, shortly after I graduated from undergrad. So I hadn't even started the master's program yet, but had just been accepted as goals was getting going. And so yeah, past couple of years in goals as well as there, both aspects has taught me, classroom to a degree, but also have a near full-time internship that I do. And both of them together, as well as what's happening in goals, has taught me things that the other one wouldn't have, to give me, just a better picture of sports in general, but also then like interacting with people that I might not normally get to interact with.
In your like opinion of the sports maybe industry, or it could be the culture or the phenomenon, but do you see that there's kind of like a splitting of the roads, or maybe it's a hybrid approach where you can be one of many, but there's like actual traditional sports that we think of, and then simulated sports. There's also esports kind of in the middle. But for like this simulated end, do you think that that could one day become like a collegiate, like Division 1 kind of thing?
Yeah, esports has grown massively over the past few years. One of my best friends, T-Benz, defenseman for the Firebirds, is on part of Butler's esports team, plays for the COD team and Apex team. Butler, of course, being in the Big East in Division 1. That's one aspect, and it's shocking to see how fast esports as a whole is growing. Um, and so I can definitely see like a it being more of a club on campus rather than maybe like a fully competitive type of thing, but of a simulated sport of what we're doing. Yeah, I think there is overlap in terms of esports, simulated sports as well as in real sports. Um, you know, People, jokingly or, maybe even not jokingly, make the argument esports isn't a sport, or cheerleading or, dance or racing isn't a sport. But, it's hard to, fully understand, some sports until you take a deeper look at it and, really see the work that an individual is putting in to make that result happen essentially. So it's hard to justify sitting in front of a computer screen playing, COD or NHL for 10 straight hours is, beneficial to anybody, but, you're able to go out and compete in championships and just like you would in a regular sports setting and, win it. And if you're able to win, of course you have that same feeling and that same excitement level. So, um, yeah, like I said, I don't think sim sports will unfortunately ever make it like to the competitive Division 1 level, but I could see it very well being like a club type of activity, like some sports are now.
Hmm. Very interesting. Having a club, maybe more of a hobby than a, competitive practitioner where you might professionalize, and there may no be no professional simulated sports players in the world, but there's always the potential to grow. In on the background of your screen, I saw this picture when you were coming up live, and I wanted to share this with you. I've got the same. This one is hand painted by myself.
Okay,
I'll
awesome.
I'll say that it took a number of steps, but you know, it's just kind of cool to hear. If you think about like sports as a whole, it's like a competitive orchestration where you get all of these things to kind of fine tune themselves and be able to unlock the potential for the greater group to perform stronger than like the combination of the individual contributions. So I guess like I'm gonna move on over to give Supreme some time for his questions, but like let me ask you this. On our last show, Trev spoke, of the highly inclusive culture of Florence, and I was wondering what you thought made Florence special.
Um, the people. It's hands down the people. I've looked past archetypes before, and when I'm recruiting somebody or talking to a draft prospect, 9 times out of 10, I'll tell them, like I could care less, how many goals you scored in the minors. I could care less, um, you know that your player sucks even. As long as you're a great person, and you're active and constantly being supportive of your teammates, and even of your opponents, whether you're playing them or not, being a good sport. um, you know I'm able to look past those flaws because I know that you can take any of those builds and essentially turn them into something very valuable. There's guys on our team, our two highest scorers from last season, Ray Bob Diddle and Ray Raymond. Both are playmakers by archetype, but both of them have ultimately end up building their players to be more like a sniper. And I think that's just a testament to all of the guys on our team and all the gals as well, who are willing to take that step back of that personal success and put the team success kind of out there, and to do what it takes to try to move the needle forward for us. And so while success on the ice, of course, is how a lot of people are measuring things, creating a fun and safe and as Trevor mentioned, inclusive environment is something that I value very highly, in our locker room, as well as then trying to spread that across goals and all the other sim sport communities.
Yeah, no, right on. There's one thing I heard about Florence is that they're really known for having a lot of members on their staff, and I see that you have 5 members
Yep.
on your staff. So would you mind talking a little bit about who these guys are and what makes Florence Florence?
Yeah. So in years past, of course, we've had a few more. Part of that was, we had some people, already in previous rules, and we had brought in some, new blood, essentially, not only to the team but to the front office, who had expressed interest. And I'll never turn somebody away from getting front office experience to being able to, be a part of it, and whether that is to just like sit there and learn or sit there and have like an active role. Because there are so many people, in goals who could easily become an owner one day, or become, a GM or a head coach of another team. And essentially it's like, putting that on like a resume, essentially, like, yeah, this person has experience, in a front office. They're able to pretty much move right over into another team's organization and be able to be a key contributor to that office and to that team, hopefully. And if they're able to make the jump straight to an owner like Fletcher Reed did, I'm able to offer myself, as a like a mentor, in any way that I can to just help give advice or help kind of point things in some ways and whatnot. So I know the success in the ice hasn't exactly been there for me yet, but been around since season 2 as an owner, gone through 2 expansion drafts as an owner. So as an expansion owner, I should say. So yeah, I've, been around the block a time or two, so I'm never going to turn somebody away. So, I always want them to, like I say, get that experience. But with the current staff that we have now, we have Trevor Lopez, believe it's either special advisor or executive, special advisor or executive advisor to the president, which of course is myself. As I talked about, earlier before we went live, I've known Trevor for going on probably 6 years now. We were in the same fantasy leagues back in 2017, and we've stayed in contact because both of us are slightly degenerate and multiple dynasty sports leagues. So I value a lot of what he says, and being, of course, a former owner and being a championship winner back in season 1. I interact with him very well, of course, and hold what he says very highly. Not discrediting, of course, Guy Clausen, Ray Raymond, or Nolan Nordstrom, Nordy. All 3 of them as well. All of them help with, I think it's listed as hockey operations in some capacity. So they all weigh in on player personnel, any trades, any like coaching decisions, line strats, anything really that's related, like anytime that there's, an expansion discussion, I'm, always open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, I make the ultimate decision. I'll take everything that they said, and really weigh it through and, make that decision. Is this something that, I believe will help the team on the ice, but also not destroy the locker room? Or is this a move that I have to make to, fix the locker room and ensure that that place is by far and away the best that it can be, even if that means sacrificing a little on the ice. So, yeah, we work extremely well. We talk all the time. There's a chance actually that I might be getting breakfast on Wednesday with Ray Raymond. So he
Right on.
lives out in the Pittsburgh area. So might be able to swing by and meet him for the first time. And so, yeah, I know that, at times that having, a bigger staff like we've had before, from an outsider's perspective, can cause issues if there's, disagreements. But a lot of the times, a lot of us think very similarly, or if we disagree, we at least explain our thoughts and don't hold, one person's beliefs over another person. So we work well together.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's good to have a good front office running the show. It really helps, not only for guys like yourself, owners, to have guys helping them out, but on top of that, it kind of helps with minors players and guys trying to go through the pros, because you got more guys weighing in on stuff. So it just always helps. More the merrier anyway.
Yep.
But so I see some other teams have as high as 7 members on their staff. So, like, do you think that there's a point where there's too many members in a staff? Like, do you feel there's like a critical mass when it comes off to staff, where there are too many cooks in the kitchen?
Even with a larger staff, I experienced it where you give somebody a staff role and they share that they're interested in it, and they share what they believe their commitment level will be. And so you give them a specified role, and sometimes their activity dwindles, and it's unfortunate. But from my perspective, I didn't take their role away from them. I gave them the opportunity to come back and keep it right where it's at, and be able to build back upon it, because I trusted that person. And ultimately we ended up making a couple of front office moves this past year, with some people either stepping down or changing their commitment level with the team. And so I believe that from our perspective, a larger office can work as well, or if everybody has a similar idea in mind. But the larger room that you have for a discussion, the larger chance that you have of people getting upset or getting flustered with each other. So yeah, there's some good in it, because you can get another perspective that you might not originally have gotten, and you can get those people some extra experience. But at the same time, you can possibly, if it's not taken care of, essentially breed an area for some disagreement that sometimes can boil over the top and lead to teams kind of crumbling. So it's a very delicate situation, and depends on from the top down how are they managing that. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it does have a higher chance of risk with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So when, enough people have their own recipes and we're trying to combine them all together, you may have too many ingredients, and it may, as you put, overboil kind of the broth that's trying to be established. So let me turn our attention away from Florence to, streaming in general. So you're a streamer as part of the streaming team. You are well regarded for the broadcast alert blurbs you provide when you stream. And I wanted to dive in here. What is your creative process? Is this your zen? Do you love this? Is this easygoing? Does it, how do you feel when you write these? Because they're great.
Yeah. Sometimes, I wish, looking back at last season when I first started them, I think I was just messing around and it took off. And then there's some days where, I'm just like really busy with either work or school and, I'm streaming and, like I wish at times that, I could just say at Miami Maccabees at Florence. But to me, not only have, I've created a precedent of, making, some more creative or funny or more lavish broadcast alerts, it is fun for me. And, I try to think of different things and I try not to duplicate on things too often. Just thinking of different ways, a team can be interpreted or, a city that they're in. So like Copenhagen, very easy to, say something about like the chewing tobacco company. I love puns. I do a lot of puns and dad jokes, and I'm very quick with that in real life. And, I try to either let that go through or, as I have a wide variety of interests, as you can see, like on the wall behind me, I have a Van Gogh on one side. I have the Vitruvian Man, Leonardo da Vinci on the other side, books all around it, all different types of books too. Something that you can't see is Pokemon and Doctor Who up here. But I let all of that come through. One of the, biggest things that I've learned over the past year and a half is to just be yourself and to, let yourself shine. And I've bought more house plants than I probably should have. I've gone to concerts, that were a little bit out there for me. Being in Indiana, growing up, a very country rural area, it was always country, and kind of putting myself out there to go to some non-country concerts. Just letting, really my love and my passion and my interest of different things just kind of explode in real life, in my personal life. I try to let that come through. I know that other people, there's 620 of us in that server. Somebody's going to get a laugh out of, hearing, where's the rum? Captain Jack Sparrow. Somebody else is going to, enjoy the day that it was Doctor Who Day. All of my broadcast alerts were talking about different, Doctor Who shows and episodes or such. I know people related to that and loved it. So, the best thing that I can do is let, my creative self be what I can be. I love painting. Got a lot of painting stuff. I have not painted anything good yet. Don't have any of my old work. I'm going to be working on writing a novel at some point. Couldn't tell you what it's going to be. But I love writing. I love poetry. So I just try to let all of my different interests and enjoyments really kind of come through, and having, that creative, type of, I guess, mindset almost just allows me to kind of let those things flow. Most of the time they come on a whim. So that's why, sometimes at the end of one game or while we're waiting to get another one going, there's, maybe an extra minute or two on the stream while I'm sitting there typing whatever it is up that I'm thinking of. And so, hardly do I ever go into it thinking of, exactly what I'm going to say. But, sometimes, they write themselves and I'm able to, think of something right as I type game one up. I think of something for game two and, I might write it up then. But otherwise, it's usually near the end of the game or even afterwards. So I think of it pretty quick on the spot.
I know I can like empathize with you. When I used to, you're not in the SFL, right? Not in the SFL?
I am not. No.
Okay. Well, there's like this team called the Louisiana Revolution, and they had this paper by like Ross Napoli, I think. And it was like this paper, and they did like 43 editions, and it was like 16 pages each. It was a legit like newspaper, and it was called Swamp Talk, and it talked all about the SFL. And anyways, I did this sim pod with Benny the Butcher and Douglas Brown. Douglas Brown's a goalie on Malmo. And we did this, and my job was at first to pick up like the different plays of the week. until the league started doing that themselves, and then it wasn't really original anymore. And then the other part was to come up with like the taglines for the results of the games. So I said that the Louisiana Swarm rolled up a copy of Swamp Talk, and or the Louisiana Revolution rolled up a copy of Swamp Talk and swatted the Atlanta Swarm, which was their mascot was a bee. I don't know. That was like the funniest one I ever had. It's not that good in retrospect or history. Probably won't repeat that one. But the point is, I could empathize with you, like working creatively. And so this poses to my next question that I've got for you, and we've only got a couple left. But many of our viewers recognize you from Draft Day, and personally, I can't imagine being in the seat that you were in, that you've continued to put yourself in, and I hope to see you in again and again, because you're really like proficient in this like mode of operating. But how do you prepare yourself mentally for those Draft Day specials to be able to provide live commentary and whatnot?
Yeah, right before we get to that, talking about coming up with creative titles. Yesterday, indoor track championship came to a close. The same college won it on the men's and women's side. So I said the title that got sent over to all of the athletic directors and everybody else in the conference. I said Youngstown State runs away with HLTF indoor championships. Being track, they ran away with it. They won.
Oh,
So
that's good.
I got a text from my direct advisor right as soon as I sent it out. Said that he had a chuckle at it and thought it was good. So yeah, but yeah, going to your question about draft day and draft prep. The first one that I was on, I think, was season 3, maybe season 4. It was nerve wracking, hands down. Never have I really been on a camera 4 goals too much. We did a couple of different things throughout early on that never really kind of took off too well. So but a lot of that was just voice. Of course I didn't show up in a tie, so everybody made sure that I had to remember that. But that first one, I had my laptop, I had a second monitor, I had my other laptop, I had my girlfriend at the time, her laptop. I had all of like 4 or 5 screens going, and I had printed off stuff. Yeah, maybe it was a little overkill, but I felt very comfortable with what was going on. The second one, I wish I would have had more prep. I got home from working that day at the gym that I was working at 7:30. The draft show started at 8. So that one was a very quick turnaround, and unfortunately, wasn't able to prep as much as I wanted to. And then this past time, I took the day off actually of draft day, and spent that morning and that early afternoon looking over just the prospects. The stuff that's in the goals roster sheet will only tell us so much. And so yeah, I try to take all of that, and anytime that I see them like interacting, so like early on in the draft show, when the more prominent or more well-known players are going, it's very easy to talk about them because there's just so much information to talk about, because most of the time that they've been in the league for a minute, and yeah, they're very active and such, so very easy to talk about. And later on in the draft, especially if you watch the last 3, you'll start to see that I make some more plays on either their names or the teams that they're going to or something. Because I don't know as much about this individual, but I'm able to look at see what goals roster says. But I couldn't have worked out more perfectly during the draft when I have Biff Markham from Tennessee on, and we're joking about Dave Axis buying him a truck and what his dream car is, and then Miami Maccabees select Felicity Ferrari with the very next pick. So some of those things, the transitions are pretty quick and easy to come by, and other times it's Evan, I'm going to kick this one over to you, or trying to bring a guest on, maybe when we're lacking a little bit on a player that we don't know a ton about. So bring in a guest on to either talk about, the draft or the league or anything really, to just kind of add more content. And so, I'll come in with relatively like a set of questions to ask some people, but you never know from a owner or team office standpoint who you're going to have on and who's going to be available. So, just kind of having some of those prepped and ready to go, and then just trying to come up with stuff as I can on the spot. The hardest times is when Evan or Aniascola has to, handle something, whether that's with his team or the league. And I've already ran through like 2 interviews, and we're still sitting there waiting for the pick to come through because of some issues. And so now I'm just trying to like fill time and just trying to ramble about something. That's the hardest part of it, to be honest. But yeah, draft prep wise, overkilled it the first time, underkilled it the second time. Third time felt pretty good. And so this fourth time, hopefully I get invited back. But in Minnesota on Thursday, March 9th, Ani Escola and I will be hosting another live draft show for Sabble. It's a baseball simulation league. So we'll be hosting it. First time ever, both of us live, like in person together. So that'll be fun, exciting, and, kind of a brand new challenge because neither of us have done it together, like in the same room. So like if we need to mute, and talk about something, plus we co-own the same team there together. So, if we have to make a discussion, it's either probably going to be writing something down and passing it to the other person rather than going on mute and, working with our team separately in goals like we're able to. So, yeah, it nerve-wracking, but at the same time, the more that you do it, the more that you become comfortable with it. So learn from each time and take the positives and try to replicate them, and take the negatives and try to eliminate them.
Yeah, no, the previous draft that just happened, I think you guys did an unreal job. That was the draft that I went in, and I watched pretty well the whole first round, and you guys did pretty flawless job. And I'd like to say thanks. You guys had some kind words about the Bear Man. So, but that brings me to about you seem to really know your stuff. You have any advice for a player like me, for the Wild Bear Man, as next year I'm trying to get up to the pros? What kind of advice would you give to a player like me?
For you specifically, for the power forward gang, Squibs, of course, on ice is a power forward guy, and Trevor, both power forwards. The best thing that you can do early on is to decide how you want to go about building your player. I know Potty is a very good face-off center. Trevor's a bit more offensive. Guy and I are a little bit more scrappy. Just me naturally being in the league a little bit more, I have some more overall play and competent on the offensive side. So I would say decide how you want to build your player, whether that is, a little bit more of that scrappy power forward, big hit guy, or like Brett Solberg, or whether you want to go, that power forward scoring type of role, kind of like Trev Lopez has developed. And of course, this isn't just for power forward specifically, but dictate, relatively how you want to build your player, and try to stick to it. A lot of teams and a lot of people are going to offer, progression help just because they've been around the league for a while. And, at least for me, I always try to ask my guys, like, how do you want to build your character? How do you want to, see it yourself on the ice? And so the more that they can have an idea for it, the more that they're able to weigh in, the more that I'm able to then build, a design for them that works for them and hopefully works for me. And so, but yeah, when they're not able to, I try to, explain what I'm planning on helping them build with their character and see if they're good with it. So yeah, biggest thing is to figure out, how you want your player to grow long term, where you want to see yourself in 5 seasons, in 7 seasons when the regression starts to kick in, and then obviously you're able to change it along the way for anything they might need. So yeah, figure out who you want to be and stick to it.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I'm just trying to hopefully, 3, 4, 5 seasons down the road, I'll be up in the pros, crushing some skulls and scoring some goals. That's kind of the plan here. So hope to be an entertaining forward in the league for a long time. But I got another interesting question here.
Okay.
Can't tell if you know who wrote this one or not. But anyway, if you were an all-star team owner, would you be picking up Potty for your team this year or what?
If it so a couple seasons ago, back when it was, not division based. So with the All Star games now, of course, it's all division based, and that's who your team is. I love power forwards. I have 3 on my team as it stands. Potty's a hell of a face-off guy and hell of a a forward himself. So yeah, he would definitely be on the draft board. I love picking people who are friends or who have played together in the past. Who like Heather Gray and Ani Escola, they had half a season together before she was traded, and both of them developed into some of the best scorers in the league. So anytime that I can find a way to pair those together and create what could have been, it's always an interesting thing. But there's always a spot for power forwards, and we deserve all the love that we can get.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, Potty seems to be he's doing pretty good, winning lots of draws, scoring some goals this year. Miami's doing good, and I'm sure he has a big contributing factor to that one. But do you have any closing thoughts you want to share, or anybody you want to shout out, or anything you want to say?
Yeah, Potty, if next time we play, if you guys wouldn't mind, maybe letting us score a goal or two, not scoring 5 on us, especially when we felt like we were getting things going. But hey, Florence is, at least in my mind, finally picking things up. And that's all on me, getting lines and strats figured out. So, I feel a little bit more confident there that I feel like we can compete with anybody. Thank you both for having me on. Thank you, to all of the viewers who are going to be tuning in, to everybody in goals who makes, this goals community awesome, but then everybody in the sim community in general. We were talking a little bit earlier, I believe before we got on, trying to describe this to somebody who's not in the community is a tough thing to do, because you're like, yeah, it's a simulation, and it's computer versus computer, but we watch it, and everybody out there is a real person, but not a real person controlling it. So sometimes to somebody who's not in the community, it can be, a little tough to describe, but for all the fun little degenerates of ourselves that are in it, we make the sim community what it is, and the better that we can make the place be, the more people that we can get into it. So, yeah, that's what I would go with. That's what I'll rock with, to close it out.
Nice. Well, appreciate you coming on again, and I know that it won't be the last time. And maybe after this talks, we could talk about having you on for a special sometime. What do you think?
I'd love to.
Excellent. Well,
I know we did. What was it? Me, Cushing, Hume, a couple other people before last season, I believe. So it was a fun little thing. So
oh yeah, maybe we could replicate that, get something going.
yeah. Maybe, yeah, I guess maybe like heading into the All-Star break, something like a fun little thing at least. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds great. All right. Well, till the next one, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks guys. Take care.
And we're back from Squibs. Chewy, I know you weren't there for that conversation, but it was a good one. And we look forward to having Squibs on for a feature special. Did you have anything on your mind as we kind of close out this episode?
Nope, that's it from me.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. This was Rinkside episode 33.